The views and opinions expressed on this program are those of the participants and do not reflect the views of BronxNet or the program underwriters.
BronxNet. Your voice, your views, your vision.
Good evening and welcome to BronxTalk. When the dialogue in the Bronx turns to the digital divide, or turns to recycling, especially electronics, or turns to technical education, invariably the name Perscolis is mentioned. So we thought tonight we'd give them their due, their night in the sunshine, if you will, so we can all find out exactly what Perscolis is all about, how they help improve quality of life in the Bronx, and also how we all can continue to support their efforts and make use of resources that many of us probably take for granted. You can ask questions, make comments, or send us an email. And you can do the questions or comments by calling 718-960-7241. And you send questions or comments to BronxTalk@hotmail.com, and we'll read those on the air during a future edition of our program. Please join me in welcoming the Perscolis Vice President of Business Development. It is Damian Howard. Damian, thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Gary. I appreciate it.
I started out and I mentioned the digital divide
Yes.
in the borough of the Bronx. How bad is it? Is the divide closing, and are we doing better than we did, or are you still real depressed about where we're at?
Well, actually right now, there was a study that was done by the Diamond Consulting Group a couple of years ago. And this is something that Perscolis has known for years, that there is a prevalent digital divide inside of our underserved communities. And that study showed that the numbers are startling from the amount of families that are not connected to affordable computer technology, which is why we are still in existence and are aiming to serve our underserved communities. There are so many families that just cannot afford to get a second system, which is something else that we offer at an affordable rate. Sometimes the parent is just, or the children are just cannibalizing the time on the computer system. And this is your option to get a second computer system without breaking the bank. Mm-hmm. And this can also be your first computer system, which can help us really address the digital divide that many people have forgotten about. But it's a very real demand out there for it.
Maybe I should define the term so viewers know exactly what we're talking about. Digital divide really is that basically some people have access to technology.
Absolutely.
And other people don't. And there's a divide not only in the fact that they don't have access to technology, but to the entire universe that actually opens up to families, whether it's access to information that can be helpful or entertainment or just about everything in the world now. You say, well, go look it up on the internet. Let's go with not the second computer in the house, but the first. Do we have many homes right now who, let's say, the buildings aren't wired or people can't afford to have computers, or they still say, well, they told me to get this information, I've got to go log on to www, and I don't even know what that is, so I can't even do that. Do we have that by and large in the Bronx?
Absolutely. We actually have close to, from the stats that I've seen recently, there's close to, I believe, 3,200 homes that don't even have a computer system or connectivity inside of the homes, and that's just preliminary numbers in a targeted area. I can't remember the zip codes that it was in, but it was a targeted study, and it was amazing to see how many apartments, homes, families that still did not have connectivity.
I'm guessing that 3,200 is for one section. That's certainly for the whole of the Bronx. That doesn't sound like a lot. But if you're saying within a targeted area, you found out there was a large percentage. Is the issue with, and of course the minute I say this I'll get cut off the air, with Cablevision and Verizon, that those services are not available in those buildings? Or is it simply a matter that people can't afford them because obviously it's an add-on to either a cable bill or a telephone bill?
Most of the times it's just affordability. So, we've been trying to forge relationships with the Time Warners who we work closely with in Cablevision to create a package to address that demographic that can't afford the connectivity and get the piece of equipment along with it. So generally the challenge is affordability on both ends with the connectivity and the equipment.
Mm-hmm. Let's talk about Perscolis. And by the way, folks who have questions about access to technology, we're going to talk about recycling. We're going to do a lot of different things, so don't hesitate to join us. Let's talk about Perscolis. How old an organization? Give us a little background. Was it founded because of the digital divide? Sure. Are you still doing the same things that you were doing way back when, et cetera, et cetera? Give us the whole thing.
So we are actually a 16-year-old nonprofit organization. We were centrally located inside of the most underserved area of the North Bronx. And right now what we do, we have workforce.
Did you say the North Bronx?
Yes.
Which is where?
Right now we're located on 138th Street.
So that's the South Bronx.
The South Bronx, I'm sorry.
That's why I raised up my eyebrows. So you mean the South Bronx?
Absolutely.
Okay, I wanted to be clear.
Because we moved from the Banknote. I'm sorry about that. So right now we offer our workforce development training program, where it's an 18-week intensive training program, and we take individuals and we teach them hard skills and soft skills. So not only do they learn how to fix a computer system from soup to nuts, they understand everything about troubleshooting the computer system, down to repairing the computer system and the software that's actually loaded onto it. But after they successfully complete the program, we then place them into jobs, which is our main thrust inside of our organization. We want to make sure that we take underserved community residents, train them, give them the proper tools, and retool them and reinvent them to put them back on the job market properly.
I want to go into some of the numbers on how that works, but just back to my question. This is what the organization was founded to do way back when?
Interestingly enough, it was actually founded upon the basis of doing recycling. So our chairman, John Stuckey, basically years ago, he was basically having a brainstorm session with one of his colleagues, and he's saying, I wonder what corporate America is doing with their retired IT assets or their retired equipment. And were they doing the environmentally sound, were they employing environmentally sound practices with their equipment, and were they doing the right thing? So he started this organization to say, hey, let us take your equipment and let us redeploy it into areas that need it the most at an affordable cost. And that's how we were founded. And then on top of that, what we decided to do was just to branch out the inside of New Waters by adding on our training program. And that training program has blossomed now to the point where we serve just over 3,000 individuals. That's both in New York and Miami. And we have a 90% placement rate as far as getting people employed
after they do the training. You know, I could see how that could happen. So here you are, an organization that is open-minded and try to be forward-thinking, and you've got all this old equipment, and then you're saying, well, wait a minute, there is the digital divide.
Absolutely.
We can't work in a vacuum and just handle all of this ourselves. Plus, people need jobs, so you started putting two and two together, and then the thing started to grow. Let's talk numbers. How many people are in the training program, and do they come to your offices? The offices are on, where, 138th, you said, off Cypress?
Yes.
Okay. And so give me some scope of how large a training program that is.
Sure. So every year, well, like I said, we train 3,000 individuals. Every year we train about 450 individuals yearly. And what they do is they actually come to our location, because we actually have a team on the ground that goes in, that teams up with CBOs and nonprofit educational facilities in order to get the word out about our workforce development program. So we actively go out to communities where we understand that there's a need for job placement, and right now that's just about everywhere. So we heavily recruit, and they have to take a very minimum test just to make sure they have a 9th or 10th grade reading and math level. And then they have to go through interviews. So we have a strict structure to make sure that they get acclimated to working inside of a fully engaged work environment once we place them into their new space.
Who pays for it?
Well, it's free for the individual to participate, but we're very stringent about how they participate. We need commitment from the participant to make sure that they're committed enough in order to get through the program, because it costs us roughly $6,500, anywhere between $6,500 to $7,000 per participant to put them through this program. And I would say roughly 65% of our organization is funded by foundations, and then we also have a portion of city grants that cover some of the operational costs, and then we have the social ventures.
Over the period of 15 years, technology has changed. I think if any of us looked at a computer from 15 years ago, we wouldn't even recognize it, certainly compared to iPads and all the other things that we have going on today. Do you keep abreast? Is it difficult to keep abreast with the changing technology?
Actually, we found a niche that's very interesting. So you have the iPads, which is where the market has driven itself drastically. But now there's just individuals who need laptops. You know, they're looking to get connected. They don't have the finances for an iPad. So there's a target audience that's heading to us strictly for laptops, and that's what we have available for our families.
Yeah, let's talk about that availability concept, because you were telling me about it earlier, and I've certainly read about it. That's what I said. It's like this mystery. What is Per Scholars? They seem to be doing great work. What is this program where people can acquire technology at really incredible prices? I mean, if you walk into any new store or whatever, you're going, well, wait a minute, I can't possibly afford that. Certainly many people in the Bronx would say that. And yet you're providing real technology to people at incredible cost. Let's talk about that.
So we have what's called, one of our arms inside of the organization is called our Community Connect program. And that's where we go into low-income communities and we host grassroots efforts, sort of, which we call one-day sales. So we team up with another philanthropic organization inside of that community.
Such as, give me an example.
The National Urban League, the Head Start, Bronx Community College. You know, there's a number of nonprofits that we actually have worked with, and we actually bring the computer systems to the community on that day and offer that affordability to technology to that community. That's just one vehicle that we utilize in order to get families connected.
And what are these people are saying, well, wait a minute, I can get a computer for $200?
$200.
And what are these pieces? Do they work?
Oh yeah, they work phenomenally. So we have Core 2 Duo laptops. They come with 1 gig, 2 gigs of memory. They are really, really powerful machines because we actually get it from our corporate partners when we talk about asset recovery. It gives us a better
so in other words, a
understanding.
company that's getting rid of a couple of hundred computers or a dozen, whatever the number is, they give it to you and then you refurbish them?
Absolutely.
So these are recycled computers, but you're able to get rid of them at a price. Do you also work, because that connectivity thing is a very big thing, I know, for seniors and others.
Absolutely.
They're like, gee whiz, well, now I got the computer, but it's like a whole thing. Do you work with them to make the connection so that they can get either, whether it be wireless or through Cablevision or DSL or whatever it is?
Yeah, we had a program, and Councilmember Jimmy Vaca was a firm supporter of it with a number of other council members, called COM2 Seniors. And inside of that training with the seniors and even our COM2 Kids program, we teach them about where to go to get affordable connectivity for your computer system. Because we're a firm believer that you can't just have the tool without the training, because the tool will be useless to you. So after we train you, we want you to have an effective tool by making sure you have the connectivity, and we point them in the right direction on where they get that from.
You mentioned to me before the show about a back-to-work program. I guess that's connected.
Absolutely.
Using that word advisedly. That's connected to this process. Talk to me about that.
Sure. So our Back to Work campaign is for the month of September. And what we're doing is that $200 price that I just mentioned for these affordable laptops. And in addition to the laptop, you get a free laptop bag, and you get some training some job hunting tips from us, because we also have a job development team at our facility. So we supply you with outlets on how to find a job, where you should go to job hunt, and what's the best avenues for you to acquire a job. So we're trying to give you tools that meet your needs. So if you're using the computer system for a job hunt, we'll be able to supply your need.
How does that work? Somebody just walks in and they sit down with you. I mean, what I really wanted to do, the idea behind the show, was to make this accessible and available, because I know the size of the resource here, but I think people are like, well, wait a minute, how do I go about doing it?
Absolutely. Well, the way to contact us, we have our telephone number, of course, and we're at East 138th Street. In Bronx, New York, 10465. And what the best way to contact us is through that number is 718-991-8400. You can ask for our Back to Work program. You can ask for our IT training program, and you can ask for any one of the other programs that we have operating during that time, and we'll be able to point you in the right direction.
I could see how somebody would be watching us right now and say, you know what, I've never really have a television, but I've never been able to be connected to the internet. And again, everywhere you turn, they're eliminating other options for finding information or accessing government services or whatever it is, and they're all saying that, and they could be watching us right now and say, gee whiz, it would be certainly nice to have that available to me. I might be able to afford it. I'm going to talk with people who really understand, where I'm at and help me make that connection. Let's talk about this thing at PS73. What's going on at PS73? I know you're real excited about it.
Absolutely. So we are just elated about this partnership that we have just launched. PS73 was burglarized a couple of months ago, and they stole approximately, I believe it was 78 laptops.
Oh my goodness.
From the school in the Bronx.
That's just, I'm
disgusting.
Sorry for reacting. It's just terrible.
And they stole these laptops out of the classrooms from these children. And when it came to my desk, Angela Tyler, who's my managing director for distribution and community access, brought this to my table, and I just couldn't stand the fact that someone has robbed children from the tools that they need in order to learn.
Especially in a high need circumstance like
Absolutely.
we've been talking about. This is really giving our young people a chance to succeed or not succeed. Really.
Absolutely. So I was mortified by the fact that someone would dare to steal from a school. So what we decided to do was to reach out to our corporate partners. So JP Morgan Chase and Prudential has stepped up to the plate, and we'll be replacing all 78 of those laptops on Wednesday. And we're celebrating with JP Morgan Chase, Prudential, the Bronx Chamber of Commerce, and Councilmember Diane Foster will all be there to celebrate how we're replacing the technology inside of this school so that those kids can get back to learning in the proper way.
PS73 is where you mentioned Councilmember Foster, I'm guessing, so it's on the west side of the Bronx?
Right, on Andrews Avenue.
Andrews Avenue.
Yes.
Let's talk about this recycling thing, and I will tell my friends and neighbors who are watching, the reason that we're having this dialogue on the air tonight is because I found in my home, as we were going through a number of things, just an immense amount of old media that, and when I mentioned it for people who are technically savvy, they're going to be like, oh yeah, I remember those, the 3.5-inch data discs.
Right.
I've got a zillion videotapes of all sorts that you can't even buy a machine to play them in anymore. There are wires, there are connecting wires that we don't use anymore. I've got an old electronic typewriter, which was really the first quote-unquote computer. I mean, it's just a volume of stuff, and I would feel ridiculous just tossing it in the waste stream. You and I had a dialogue about recycling. Tell me about the recycling program at Perscolas.
Sure. So the recycling arm of the business has been in existence for over 11 years. We have over 125 major corporate partners that actually recycle with us, which we call asset recovery. And that basically means we want to ensure that corporate America and individuals actually dispose of their retired IT equipment properly. Because what has happened when individuals do not understand or know where to dispose of their equipment, it ends up being disposed of irresponsibly. And it can end up in a developing country overseas. It can end up inside of a landfill near an underserved community. And the toxins can seep into the waterways.
So when you say ending up overseas, you're just talking about because it's in the waste stream and we've got, hardware literally everywhere.
Well, what happens, there is money to be generated inside of this business, and unscrupulous vendors actually take that equipment that's valuable, and then they will ship it overseas if they can get money for that equipment. We are an East Stewart Enterprise recycler, and we're also a New York State registered recycler. So that means that we won't export your equipment, there will be no landfilling, no incineration, and no prison labor. So we actually do recycling the right way.
And so what do you do with some of the items that I mentioned, whatever it is? I mean, and again, I could go through the numbers of things. As you know, I'm amassing a bunch of it, and one day we're going to get over to your place. You're going to have it all. But so what do you do with it? When you say recycle it properly, what does that mean? So
what that means is that we do everything domestically. That's number one. So when we receive the equipment, let's say we're going to a partner's organization, we extract extrapolate the equipment, give it safe and secure transportation back to our facility. Then it's going to begin to go into the discovery stage where we actually scan the equipment for reporting purposes to prove the transfer of ownership, and so that they can have clear and transparent reporting for their assets. At that point, if the equipment is not good or reusable, we then break it down into smaller valuable pieces, and those items are resold domestically in order to generate the revenue and cover the cost of it.
Screws, nails, brackets,
CPU, motherboards. You know, some of the older machines actually have gold inside of them. You know, some of the plates in there have copper on them.
The people who do this work are Bronx people who have jobs doing this work for you.
Absolutely.
This is, ladies and gentlemen, and I've preached about this on this show, this is the green economy. If we can do this, we can put Bronx people to work, we can teach them skills, how to take this apart, and of course, not hurt the environment, but help the environment.
That's right.
Right? I mean, I wanted to make that clear. Let's talk about data destruction and security. A lot of people say, well, you know, I've got an old computer. Computer has a hard drive. Some of the old computers had 2 hard drives in them. It's got a lot of data. We know that a lot of times people are saying stuff can't be destroyed. What happens to data? Can they be secure if they recycle it, that their vital information doesn't end up overseas or somewhere else?
Absolutely. So because of some of the high-level clients that we deal with, data security is paramount for our operation. So anytime we receive what we call data-bearing assets, that's when a hard drive still has information on it, or if it's a printer that has a hard drive, whatever has data on it, we send it through a Department of Defense 3-wipe pass or 7-wipe pass, depending on what level.
Say that again?
A Department of Defense 3-wipe or 7-wipe pass.
3-wipe pass.
Yes,
I get it.
And it's a program that's called Data Kill, and what it does is it runs over and over your information until it's completely wiped. And we have a technician that actually monitors the process so that he can trap any incidents inside of it, just to make sure that it's completely being done properly. And then beyond that, when the data-bearing asset is rendered unusable, we then degauss it, which means it goes into our system, which totally destroys the hard drive. So there's no way to recover the information on your asset.
And if you have a computer that's not working, and don't hold me to this, but I do have computers in this circumstance. If you have computers that are not working, you can still open it up, extract the hard drive, and do all this to it.
Absolutely. We do it as best practice to make sure that there's no information left on anyone's equipment once it comes to our facility.
What is the uniqueness, or is there uniqueness to Perscolis? In other words, does Brooklyn have one? Is there one in Philadelphia? Is there one in Chicago? Or are we blessed in the Bronx to have this one-of-a-kind organization?
I will proudly say that we're blessed in the Bronx to have this one-of-a-kind organization.
I vote yes on Proposition 1. That's a nice thing to know.
But seriously, we literally are the only organization that has this many arms as a nonprofit organization that has a social venture attached to it. This is what has allowed us to remain flexible during the economic downturn. You know, being that we're able to connect our families, stay way under market prices, and connect them at an affordable price, while still getting our funding from our grantees and from city and state supporters. We have been able to weather our way through this economy with very minimum damage.
What's next for Perscolis? I mean, we've watched the growth now, because the nature of technology has grown in the 15 years that you've started. So we've watched the growth now, and every step of the way you uncover something else and say, well, you know what, it wasn't enough to just take in the equipment. Now we have to recycle it. Now we have to train people. What's next? Do you have a sense of what kinds of things are going to be on the horizon for you?
Absolutely. So I'm glad you asked, because right now we are, I would say 75% down the road with replicating inside of Columbus, Ohio. There's significant interest also in Philadelphia. And
to expand what you do to those cities.
Absolutely. And you know, other cities have found this to be such a unique program that they said, hey, listen, if you can find a way to develop jobs and get our people ready, give us job readiness programs and a workforce development that you bring with your expertise, with the recycling program, the affordable computer technology, we want to give this to our residents also. And how do we bring it to our city?
You know, if I'm a official for the federal government, and that's never going to happen, so don't hold me to that. But if I was a federal official, I would say, you know what, this is one of capital THE, the answers in terms of empowering people, putting people to work, helping the environment and all those kinds of things, I would think we'd want to replicate that literally anywhere in the United States of America.
Absolutely. I mean, we have gotten significant interest. We've had the Mott study. It was a study that came out that proved us to be one of the top 3 workforce development programs in there. And right now, we're going through a series of programs and projects that will help us propel the organization to the next level. So we're serious about our mission, and we're serious about taking individuals and making sure that they have another chance and opportunity to be employed, to get connected to computer technology, and to recycle in an environmentally safe way.
You know, we talk about the uniqueness of the Bronx all the time. It's not a surprise to me that these kinds of things come out of the borough of the Bronx.
Absolutely.
Because of the challenges that we have, but
Absolutely.
because of the kind of creativity of our people
Absolutely.
who say, well, okay, nobody else is going to do it for us, so we will come up with this,
Absolutely.
with this idea.
Well, I'm proud to say that I live in the Bronx and work in the Bronx.
Well, me too. Here we are. So let's wrap it up and let's put out the pitch. If you are blank, you should, do what in terms of interacting for Perscolas? Here's your pitch.
Sure. If you're interested in getting connected to affordable computer technology or finding out about our workforce development training program, please contact Perscolas at 718-991-8400. We are located at 804 East 138th Street in the Bronx, conveniently right off the 6th train. Cypress Avenue is the stop, and you can come by and visit us at any time or call us, and we'll be more than happy to help you.
And of course, the website, if you are already connected is perscolas.org. And I will tell you, this was the reason that I decided to invite you here.
Thank you, Gary.
Because I think this is real important. This is a way to get people empowered, get people connected, and potentially get them some skill training.
Absolutely.
And also, of course, help the environment. I mean, if you ask
Absolutely.
people what they think we need to do in the Bronx and in this country, they would list, well, yeah, jobs, education, training, and help the environment, and that's what Perscolas does.
Absolutely.
Damien, thanks to you and to all my friends at Perscolas for
Thank you,
coming
Gary.
by and for the great work you do in the Bronx.
We appreciate it.
Folks, if you have further comments or questions on anything you heard on tonight's show or anything going on in the Bronx, then email them to us at BronxTalk@hotmail.com, and we'll read those on the air during a future edition of our program. Archives of Bronx Talk are available at BronxNet.org. You click Bronx Talk on the right-hand navigation bar toward the bottom of the website there. Now, next week, this is a big show. We dive into a terrible Bronx problem, the recent spike in shootings in the Bronx and throughout the city. We'll have a representative from New Yorkers Against Gun Violence and also a criminologist to analyze the problem. So we'll see you then and every Monday night at 9 for Bronx Talk. Thanks to producer Jane Folloro, director Michael Arias, to Dina, and our cast of thousands who are around us here in the studio and in the booth. And to you, good night. See you.
weight loss, it's one of the many ways to fight osteoarthritis pain. For more information on managing pain, go to fightarthritispain.org.
Be free. Nice, Dad. Nice, Dad. Nice.
Charles!
Nice, Dad.
You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. There are thousands of siblings in foster care who'll take you just as you are.
So here are the keys. Congratulations, it's officially yours. I'm sure you'll have many happy years here. Except for you, because you'll be gone 3 years from now, struck down by the same disease that got your father. So you won't be around for them. And sadly, it could have been detected early with a simple test, but you didn't have it. Okay, who wants to check out the backyard?
For a list of tests every man should have, go to ahrq.gov.